Mr. Stubbs. Well, hello, I'm man's best friend. Do you know my name? Wherever we go, I know that's where you and I feel just the same. And whatever you throw, I'll bring love back. Well, I wag my tail and I help you smile. All the while, help you smile.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Roman Anton here in Bangkok, Thailand for another episode of the Roman Anton Podcast, and I'm welcoming Charlie McSkallywag. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Roman. It's great to be here.
Yeah, good. No, so I just, by way of history, I would say this. I've seen you for years, but I never started to make it regular until the post-COVID, pre-COVID shutdown in the third and fourth quarter of this year. I would go over to Apotheca because it's in the neighborhood, and you were playing every Wednesday night, I think, right? Wednesdays?
Well, with
some nights. With
my other band, we were there every Sunday for about 6 years.
Right, so I didn't catch any of that, but I
Yes.
caught you, and
Well, these last few, I guess this last year, the COVID, I've been there, just me, myself.
right, and so I got to listen to you quite a bit, and there were maybe, I'd say I caught at least 10 or 12 shows, and it was real interesting listening to you because I don't think I heard the same song twice. And I said, what's going on here? So Frank was laughing, so Frank's behind the camera over there, but I guess that's an indirect compliment, but you have a very unique playing style and a very unique way of approaching a set at a venue, so maybe we'll get to that in a little bit, but I reached out and asked you and some other folks if you had a social media presence. And I don't know, since I didn't ask you on the phone, I asked you through texting. Would you say you have a big social media presence, medium or small or large or non-existent?
Well, I'll just take out my telephone to show it. Roman, so he'll. I don't have to say anything. He can tell you.
I gathered as much. Okay. Yeah, and it was interesting because looking for themes in the social media you have, obviously there's pieces of you playing in various locations, more than I could count. There was more social media in this last year than there was in the previous 4 together. So it seems like your COVID year you had a busy year. I saw you with both your daughter and your son in some settings, but I also saw things that I gathered you'd like, which was children being happy. That seemed like a theme on your social media. So it gave me a little bit of a feel for the Charlie that I'm starting to see around town and see stuff. I saw you performing, it looked like on Koh San Road or in the neighborhood over there, sort of on the out in public.
For about the last 8 years,
Yeah.
I've been playing Koh San Road.
Yeah.
In different bands.
Right.
Or just myself.
Right. Okay.
And that has been a great education.
What do you mean by that?
Because I got to play with lots of different people,
Okay.
lots of different artists, and I love that as being an artist to reflect and draw from other artists, like learn different genres of music or different people's interpretations of songs and.
Huh. See, I gave that a cynical. I think I'm going to have to drop the cynical today because I gave it a cynical approach when you said it. I thought you learned about interaction with the police or the administration of Kosan, but your first take was you learned a lot from the other musicians. So I've got to change my frame of reference here a little bit. So shame on me for attaching negative energy to the comment. So that's interesting. So would you go location to location on a night? Would you play multiple locations, or would you show up and play a spot?
There was a few places that I played a few nights a week, but then I'm free if I had another place to play. So I got a lot of those gigs mainly backing up other artists. I could pretty much go and back them up and just be the guitar player. And I really enjoyed that experience too, that I could play at an early place and do the singing and playing myself, but later on I would be the guitar player in a band.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy being that, especially when you got that front person who is a good entertainer and can really sing, or two singers, to back people up and to feel that energy. It's wonderful to do things together with other musicians, other artists. It's definitely there's a lot of power there.
Right. That was my introduction to you, was seeing you at Live Lounge with Max, but at Max's Live Lounge. But with and Max, if you look at our podcast, his podcast came out this last week, so Max was here already. But to see you play with Will, who also came to this room and did a podcast with us, so we're starting to talk to folks in your circle here. But I wanted to highlight one thing. We try to point out spots that might be fun for people to go to. You play at a lot of them. I mentioned one, Apotheca. You play at others. I mentioned Live Lounge. You play there. I mentioned Speaker Box before. But here we mentioned a street. I haven't spent much time there, I have to admit, but it's pretty exciting when you go there, especially at night for live music purposes, which is Khao San. You've been in Bangkok, or you've been in Thailand for many, many years, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't want to try and age you or date you or put a date to it or say it's too long or too short, but it's more than a lot of folks that I've met here. You have a long history. Have you been going to Khao San for a long time, 10 years, 20 years, or is this, have you watched that change? Because I have a feeling it's evolved over time. And for example, they paved it this year, I think.
Yeah. Well, I came from when it was at the most authentic, that very natural. What would you say? There's a word everybody uses these days. It's very earthy, very wholesome. Never wholesome. It's always been pretty crazy there. But what would you say? What is that word? There's a word everybody says these days, but it.
Cool.
No. There's a word that when you eat something that's healthy for you, something like when you eat healthy food, like there is this.
Boring.
No.
I
think. Well,
legit.
You can talk. There's
organic.
Organic. There we go.
Yeah,
organic. We got it. Organic. So because all those years, there's been a lot of I've played in the big pubs with big bands and had the big boss and all this blah blah blah, but some of those places where it was just a small cafe, very intimate, and you were just singing in the middle of the room, surrounded by people, no stage. I really loved that environment, and when people would hey man, can you do this song, and if you can do it, you do it, sure. And you get these sing-alongs where you get people singing along, and all of a sudden somebody's there who's never been on stage before, but because they've had a few drinks, they've got that courage. They go, come on, and let me hear you. Okay, Kia, C, you're fine. Take off, go. And then they do it, and you see how happy and high they get from the music. And then you realize, wow, music, that live music, is it's a medicine.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful to be part of it. I'm just part of the pie. I'm nothing special, but it's nice to be part of the pie.
So we'll get back to pies in a minute, which are a theme for you and me, maybe a little bit. Question: 80s Khao San?
80s, 90s,
70s,
70s. At the end of early 80s, 90s, and then that's 3 decades now for me.
Well, and I'm not trying to drag you through something you don't want to contemplate or whatever. But I guess the point for me is when you say organic. If we went to the 40s, it would be non-electric, right? But we're not going to go back that far. So were the 70s and 80s, would they plug in? Were there amps? Because I imagine it was just different equipment.
Well, see, for me, I pretty much grew up most of my life here in Thailand. So I go back to when I first came to Thailand as a young man, and I got to meet some of these famous Thai musicians that had bands who, when you heard them live, were fantastic, whoa. And I learned so much from those people and that.
But even them would tell me, hey, Charlie, get that acoustic guitar. And in between the big bands, when there's this missing, instead of putting on a tape or that acoustic song. And because I had those classics, all those old, they've never gone away. I'm still singing those classics. And I have young people come up to me and go, hey, man, thank you for that stuff, man. We love that. And it's beautiful to see how music, it connects us.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I have a couple of reasons for wanting to ask that. I'm fairly calculated. I don't know how honest my discussions are, but I was trying to gather some information because I hear things about live music in Thailand and I try to verify. I know what Frank and I in the band do, and I know what I see other people do, but beyond that, it's sort of hard to have a theme that's consistent throughout the various places you go. So was Khao San, let's just use the 80s, if that's when you started to play there a lot. Was it hits? Was it Hotel California, or was it people?
Yes.
Yes. And was it ever music that you really, I mean, I know you like playing everything, but was it ever your stuff? Like, were you ever really playing 3 or 4 hours like you do of the music you liked? Or was it, hey, Charlie, play Running on Empty, or hey, Charlie, play, the hit of the day, whatever it was? What was sort of happening in Khao San? Has it always been a hit factory, or was there ever when it was organic or more organic? Was it play what you want and people will say awesome or not?
Yeah. Okay. So see, when I was playing music, there was a few days of the week where I was actually a teacher, where I was teaching kids. I'm talking about nursery up to grade 6, teaching them to sing. But also I had to do 2 periods of art. So I'm having this daytime singing with kids and doing this artwork. And sometimes in these places, I would actually sing some of those kids' songs to people, just in that setting. And I saw and see, I've always felt that too. Like, even when you do a cover song, make it your own.
Right.
Like make it your own. Steal it. Like, yeah, that's my song now. And because I'm so thankful for all those great artists that have come and gone. But you take their song and then you realize who that person really was or who really is. It's so beautiful, like words and melodies, like chord structure, and then you throw in these beautiful thoughts and these beautiful messages. I mean, and I know what you're saying, and I think every artist, we have to be careful of that when we try to maybe copy or try to, like, that's what I found singing with kids. I would go into the classroom, maybe there's 15 kids, and I would listen, and I would maybe get 4 of them. They can sing those 4. So I'd get those together, and that would spread. Like, that didn't take long. A couple of weeks, that whole classroom, they were singing songs together.
Okay.
And it was such a beautiful thing, because there's a lot of fantastic children's songs that are out there that when you sing them, it's so beautiful. But when you get together and when people are singing and laughing, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I saw one of your posts. You were on a park bench underneath what looked like a big Bodhi tree, and there was a group of kids at your feet, and it was almost instantaneous interaction when you started playing. But were you teaching Thai kids, American kids, mixed?
International kids from all over the world, but a lot of Thai kids. And also at this one little international school I was at, 40% of the children were Indian, Sikhs and Hindus.
Go figure.
And that was, for me, those kids are magical. But I also had kids from Africa, whose parents were Muslim, but their kids are beautiful. And then you realize every culture, their children are so beautiful. They're like, and just so funny, like, and I mean, it's just, music is such a wonderful gift for societies, for humanity.
Yeah. Were you ever learning and singing in Thai?
Of course.
Yeah, and so I've seen you do that before, but so, for the kids' songs in Thai, are they as meaningful to you word-wise as your Australian or US or Western songs that caught on that you teach? I assume there's a core curriculum of songs around the world that kids learn in some version, but I assume then there's a native country version of Puff the Magic Dragon or whatever the hit of our time was, right? So
Yeah.
how was the breakdown? What were you grabbing the standards, or were there no standards and you were doing what kids sang because of Disney at the time or something?
Okay, for me with music, a lot of times I'm not even listening to the words.
Yeah.
I'm actually just figuring out what chords you're playing.
Yeah.
And see, I had a chance where I traveled in Thailand, and I spent more than 10 years in an area called Isan.
Right.
It's near the Lao border, and they speak Laos, that Isan language. And they have a music called Molam that you're making these pins.
Right.
That is magical. And see, I picked up some of that. And also those songs, I made up some of my own Molam songs, which talks about this thing that I used to hear all the time. And that was these farmer people, these Isan people, asking me, where are you going? Have you eaten yet? And they would make me eat. And I mean, I had one time this uncle, he gave me a shirt because his brother was working as a laborer in Singapore and sent him this really nice shirt. And this uncle goes, I'm a farmer, I'm not going to wear that, but if you wear it when you play your guitar, Charlie, you're going to look great. And why? That's where you take your hands and you put them in the middle of your forehead and why. And I said, thank you, uncle. I asked him, I said, why do you have such a good heart? Because he always feeds me. Hey, come on. And then, of course, he's going to open a beer and we're going to, then he's going to sing me a song. And then he was one who got me into this more this groove. And so they have this one saying that I asked Uncle, why do you have such a good heart? And he told me, this guy studies 4 years in primary school. That's his education. But because they're farmers, they learn from Mother Nature. And he used to say to me, never mind, when I die, I can't take any of this with me, but when I go, I'm going to take that love I have for you, Charlie. I'm going to take that with me. And it was like, that's so beautiful, Uncle. And it really touched my heart. So in Isan, I can say that, Khop kun lai de, Chau si bai say pan bo dai than kon yo gon de, Paksida yok mưa bai tham lung thamai lung mi nam chai khana ni lung bo oi bo yang tai pa lao.
We'll have to subtitle that, Rath. So Rath is our assistant producer.
It's beautiful, Rath, right? Banogna, Naragna. And the grandmother, she calls me her son. Look, by name, look in Kaulian. Oh, kunyai.
So is this a Thai alphabet language?
Yes, they have the same spelling in that. See, because Thailand and Laos, people in Laos, they're connected with the Isan people. They've got family there, so it was all way back there. But that used to be cross the river, and you got family there, and they're farmers. They're the backbone of in Thai. Kun chauna ben guduk sang lang kong chat, and what that says is that the farmer is the backbone of the country. Hey, that's true. That's beautiful. I agree with that. That's those people producing food. Oh, hallelujah. Love those people.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Was it true? Is it true? It's true to you. Is it true in America? Was it ever true in America? Is it true in Australia? And so I guess that's an interesting segue, and we got there by this sort of discussion of musical stuff, and so I put that one on me. So you were learning at the same time when you were out songs in Thai or songs in other languages, Molam or English, and so you played whatever, and so you just were putting it out there. And so were the songs on Kosan tracking any of that, or was it just always sort of where the world met? Was Kosan always a destination for people coming to town?
Okay, Roman, that's a beautiful question. Why? Because back in the day, I used to have this thought. I'd been on top of a guest house. I'd done my 2 gigs, but I wasn't finished yet. We were up on top of a guest house with a bunch of people from who knows where,
right?
With a couple of acoustic guitars, a few beverages,
right? And
I used to tell them, I said, this is the center of the universe. Here we are. Because you've got people from all different countries. You got people from Israel, you got people from the Middle East, and you got people from India, you got people from America, and you got but together, hey, that didn't mean nothing. You're under the stars and singing songs like, okay, the Beatles, of course, Hotel California. Hey, but even, I remember there was a time when Oasis, right. Oh man, you sing those, everybody in every country knew those. They loved that, right. And I mean, it's brilliant. Hey, but I was playing one night, I had this guy from Bulgaria come up and he did some Gypsy King. Nice. On the guitar. Oh, I mean, it blew me away. It was so beautiful and so like, wow, that's so beautiful. And he really had that gypsy, and it was like, and I was just playing along with him, and it was just, I loved it. It was beautiful. And I met so many different artists like that who just, they took me to that, wow, what is that grace? What is that place? It's like, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You capture a lot in your answers, and I think it's connected. I mean, I see the connections you're making. So it's interesting because the thing that leapt out to me in that response, as I try and figure out what the musical themes were back then, was the sort of center of gravity. And Thailand seems to boast quite a few of those centers. And when you see the mass of people move around or people visiting, you can have the northern spots where people go, and there seems to be concerts and things, attractions and get-togethers, and they may be celestial or solar. They may be related to moons or suns or stars, and there may be islands that seem more prone to that as well. And it seems to me that there's a lot of discussion, and I would assume now it's on social media. I would assume in the past, before, it was word of mouth passed to people, and they would make their exodus to these locations. And I have a feeling that, that center of Kosan was there for everyone, but there were probably some devoted people who were on their quest and met up, and there were other parts of Thailand that were like that as well, right? Pai, Chiang Mai, and probably more places that you know about at a more visceral level that you traveled through on foot, probably, right, with a guitar. Yeah, and it's interesting to see this weave together, but there's always this commonality of the street, and it really hit me hard, and I hate throwing out big words or fancy words or locations, but I remember, Kathmandu, when I was there, and the power would go out in the evening, and you'd sort of congregate by the strongest generators if you needed light and ice or whatever. That was the first time I really saw, wow, I mean, folks are driven here out of necessity, at night for the collective, but there's also a quest to meet people who are on the road and have a spot. But when I got there, the music, it seems to bring together, and you're going to hear these things that reach the far corners of the earth that stand out, and it's a collective. And I always wondered if that was a natural force or if it's a marketing force that sort of pushes that song to the front. But you're right, Oasis always gets to sing along, right? On the road.
And if you go to the south of Thailand, you'll meet a lot of Rastas, right. And they're Thai. I mean, these guys, but they're devoted Rastafarians, sure. and their understanding of Bob Marley and that genre of music, it's so beautiful, and that it's like, wow. I learned from those guys too. I mean, I met some of those like grandfathers of the Rastafarian, but they were Thai, and I mean, once a man, twice a child, Rastaman. Like, whoa, what was that again? What did you say? Like, but I also at that time I played with this guy. He was from the African American, but from the southern part. So the Creole, they had that like voodoo and that. And he was a Rastafarian, and so at that time I really got into Bob Marley, that and the whole reggae, and it was like, wow, it's magical. But you learn from, especially playing with these other people, you learn from that. You get that groove, and you just follow along. But then just from conversations and you get to know more about that the movement of the people, and then you get to wow, that's like. It's all there. It's all happening. But, here we are in 2021. My God, it's like, wow. Yeah. But it's like time went so quick. Like, it's like, and it's another movement of the people. But it's always got something to do with the music and what other genres can we come up with? Because now it seems to be a lot of people are really interested in the blues. And for me, the blues is beautiful because it's like 3 chords, 4 chords. And it's a story. You're telling stories. And storytellers, because on my mother's side, the Irish, so I've got that in the Irish, they're storytellers. I tell you, I've heard a lot of stories growing up from that side of the family. They're characters.
Well, can I ask maybe to link this back up? So, and I only know what I read or about you. I'm not drawing off of sources that I don't know, but I think you do list yourself as from Sydney, Australia?
I was born in Sydney, Sydney, Australia, yes.
Did you spend a lot of time there? Did you get out early?
I guess when I was 21, that's when I came to Thailand. 21, 22, just after I finished my education, and I was out of there.
Yeah.
Hasta la vista, baby.
What did you study, if you studied?
I actually studied arts.
Okay, cool. Visual, painting?
No, at that time it was a lot of just art, like especially, tech drawing, but I was always never with a computer. I'm not from that generation. I was always, doodling with, and I've always been a doodler.
Right.
And that's really helped. That's what I've done. I've always used that. Drawing and with music. That's how I've always, even in Thailand as a teacher, music and art.
Yeah. Well, right, and I imagine early on it's a better default mode when you're not speaking Thai very well to sort of throw out visual and musical stuff as well to get the class hours to pass, right? Let's have a sing-along. It's easier for me. Right.
Yes, but for example, I would take a song like Three Little Birds, and I would write it, and in the old days I was still using like chalk, the blackboard, and then of course it upgraded to the
overhead
whiteboard. No, the overhead I never graduated, so I just a whiteboard, and I would write out the song Three Little Birds, and I would draw some birds, and my Jimi Hendrix Angel with the guitar, with it going into. And I actually had parents coming up to me and they'd say, "Teacher Charlie, that is the most beautiful children's song I've ever heard. You wrote that." And I'd say, "No, that's a Bob Marley song." Right. And I mean, there'd be the dad at the back looking at me like, "Yeah, Bob Marley, yeah, yo man." And like with a cheeky look on his face. But hey, that was a beautiful mum and a beautiful dad, and their children are beautiful. But when you get their kids singing with the rest, and that song is beautiful, Three Little Birds, 3 little boys, like they're by my doorstep, and the sun's shining, and it's like, nature, and that's really the Thai people too. That's the heart of the Thai people. They're very connected to the nature.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love that. I love that about the Thai people. They're very connected to the nature, and
yeah, I mean, it's hard to not see that if you're here and you're paying attention.
Yes.
I mean, I guess if you're at the Four Seasons, which is an awesome place, you may not get that vibe as well. But even when you go to the extreme luxury places here, there's a connection to, clearly they could have an open lobby or something that's out of the ordinary, and they will have plants and orchids and things, and it's so sort of related to the earth. Even at the luxury level, it always surprises me how integrated it is here, and just in everything. And got pie delivery from you this week, and there's the leaf on the top, right? I don't know what that's there for.
That's a banana leaf.
Right. I don't know. Does it keep them dry, or does it keep them wet, or does it keep it,
You'll
whatever?
have to ask my wife. She's the one, but she makes me take my little knife and go up into the little jungle up there and get some old banana leaves, and I go up and cut them. That's part of my job now.
Understood.
So
I could tell that was your handiwork.
And it's nice too. She said, "Oh, you got some nice leaves." I said, "Yeah, because the squirrel said, 'Hey, Charlie, come in here. I got the special tree.'" And I tell her this story, and she's like, "Yeah, she's a crazy man." But there is squirrels there. There's a bunch
that talk
of them.
to you? Yeah.
Well, in squirrel language. But actually, there's this one lady has this parrot, and I always have my little guitar, and it hears me coming, so it'll start whistling,
Okay.
And she goes, "It heard you coming with your guitar, so I brought it out." And I have a conversation with that bird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We kind of have a little jam together, I play the guitar, singing, it goes.
That would be a Facebook spectacular if you post that.
No, we could actually do that. Hey, you got to do that, dear. My wife's behind me. You're taking notes?
Yeah. She's. I don't think so. She got her face shield on. She's the only one social distance.
She's thinking about pies.
There we go. Think about what you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So 21, and are you focused and you want to be the next Geary, or you want to build houses and skyscrapers when you get out of art school, or what's in your head at that point?
ธรรมะคือธรรมชาติ
Okay, so you wanted to
ธรรมะคือธรรมชาติ Well, the Thai people
you
say
do what you are?
the Buddha is the nature.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a very high thought that, well, see, okay, right where I live, they had a vacant allotment. This is where I got the banana leaves, by the way. They had a vacant allotment that they were going to build another condominium. Mm-hmm. But because of this COVID, I guess the budget's gone. So, but they cannot have.
Oh, they'll get it back.
but they cannot have that vacant allotment like it is, because they have to pay tax on it. So the idea is to grow something on it, and then they don't have to pay. So a couple of farmers come in there with a bulldozer and dug these trenches to put the water and made these like little mounds, and that's where the banana trees grow. But other things have grown, and I've seen the nature come back, the squirrels and the boids, the birds. And for me, it's got to be about nature. Now, don't we see how beautiful, and nature can heal if we just leave her alone. Just give it space. Yeah. And we're all talking about this. We all need space, even with the social, hey, come on. When you're with kids, that's one thing. If you're being around kids, you got to give them space. Respect them. Like, let them have their individuality and let them. And that's the beautiful thing about some of these little international schools where you got all these mixed. And it's so beautiful because kids don't see a lot of the stuff us adults see. They just kind of get enjoy. You know, it's like the past and the future. They look at you and they go, you must be mad. It's just here and now. Come on, let's have a good time. Woo! And then I go, whoa. Bob Marley was right. Once a man, twice a child. Hey, Bob, Rasta man, you're the man, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, his messages, I guess I get if they're clear in the lyrics, but I don't know if that's if I share that or if I don't. I'm cynical and maybe more so than I care to be, but it's interesting that you talk about this growth and this resurgence during the COVID time, because I was doing a lot of walking in the evening and tried to not get into places where you would sort of invite authorities to say, what are you doing? You just sort of keep your mask on and walk, right? And I noticed a diminished rat presence for certain, because there's no garbage in the streets to go after from the restaurants, I guess. I don't know, I'm making that last part up. But I noticed encroaching everything else, you know, bird life, lizard life, snake life, as I went on these longer walks, and in particular as I hung closer to the rivers or the Klongs, and sort of went down that Petersburg Canal thing. You know, it was just a very interesting thing. And then I read about this in the Bangkok Post or online about how the islands seem to be rebounding, and, you know, the dugong, that weird-headed animal, was coming closer to shore and being seen more often, and, you know, just the schools of fish were coming back in PP in that area. And you heard about this, and it was a 6-month break, a 4-month, and I was like, wow, that happens so quickly, right? Because we know we're eviscerating and just sort of destroying a lot of this stuff with the tourism, right? It's just factual. It doesn't make it easier for fish to do what they need to do, right? So, but that short period of time, you watch this odd juxtaposition, and then the air got cleaner, you know, in Bangkok proper, right? And so you're getting fresh air, lack of traffic, lack of factory stuff. You know, just, I'm guessing, you know, these are things, and maybe in my other job I've read a little bit about that, but, you know, you have this whole sort of dichotomy going on. You know, the world's in chaos and it's falling apart and people are actually physically dying, and then you have this resurgence of nature in a strange way. And if that wasn't proof of what we're doing, to me, it was at least some evidence that some things are suffering and need help. And it was really striking to me. But it's interesting how you bring that up in terms of that lot behind your house, just sort of, you know, sure, they had to plant stuff, but when they did, it took off, right? And we're in the middle of this concrete jungle here that's also so very alive, you know, the rivers and the Klongs and you know, I'm sure you walk on roads at night or in the morning where you smell the jasmine or the flowers, the the various flowers blooming on a city street, right? It's always sort of unique. I don't remember that in other big centers I lived in, like New York. It wasn't as often that you'd get the smell of nature, things like that. But I guess that's more of an observation and not a question or a comment. But I was trying to see if you left school saying, yeah, school was awesome, now I want to go make money at my craft, or if you said, well, that was a good 4 years and now I want to try something else. What was the thinking? Were you guitar on your back at that point or not yet?
Okay, when I was a kid at school, my big thing was surfing.
Surfing, for sure. I noticed that. That's the third element on your social media. There's at least 3 postings of surf people.
So, and this comes from a true story, because I kind of lived a little bit up, so I couldn't see the ocean from where, but I had a friend.
So you're back to Australia, you're in Sydney area?
Yeah, well, this is Bondi Beach.
Bondi Beach.
And I lived up at the top of Tamarima, but I had a friend who lived right there, and it was like, okay, so the story goes, he was there, he'd see the surf, and he'd say, I'm not going to school. I'm going surfing, man. The surf is so good. And it's like, So then I'd have to put on this big act like, Mum, I'm so sick. I think I'm dying. I'm like, and she'd say like something like, this is the Irish. She'd say, no, you're going to live a long time. Only good people die young. And I'd look at her like, I'd say, anyway, Mum, can I stay home from school? She'd go, of course. And I'm going to the beach. But the story goes, my friend and I were out there surfing, and who's out there? Our teacher, because the surf was so good. But that's the surfer. Okay. If you're a real surfer in Australia, see, that's a beautiful thing about nature. And surfers, they can see that too, like, that how beautiful nature is, the power of the ocean. And what they're doing now with surfing in different places, it's incredible. But then you realize that even what we talked about, nature, that's the micro of the macro. Like even universal values, like when you look at life and how precious. And okay, we talk about the plants and that. See, I've had that experience being around kids. And when you see children, and I used to teach the nursery kids, songs. You've got little kids come up, teacher Charlie, yes dear. Why do you like to play the guitar and sing songs? And I'm like, okay, let me think about this question, because you're having this conversation. Right. I was there 4 days a week. I only taught 4 days a week at little internationals. So think about it. And I just write a song there and then. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. I sing because I love ya. A song for you and me. Well, I woke up this morning, had myself a lovely cup of tea. 2 sugars, please, love. And I came to school, and now I'm looking at you. And I know I'm going to have a great day. And that little kid looked at me and said, oh, that's why you like to play the guitar and sing songs. And it was like, yeah. And see, that's the most beautiful thing we have as societies, as a people, as a race. Hey, kids, mothers and children, my God, they're so beautiful. Like, wow, that's magical. And I'm so thankful that I grew up because of the Irish, the matriarchal, like grandma, she was the big boss. Even my grandfather, his name was Billy Smith. I don't know exactly what in his DNA, but there's some beautiful things in my grandfather Billy Smith's DNA. But grandma, she was from Ireland, and she was the big boss. And my grandfather would say to me, son, I'm afraid of no man. And very few women. He was talking about grandma. But it was like when I think back that was beautiful. Because they were, he knew grandma was the one feeding everybody and taking care of all the living things and all the, we always had puppy dogs and that, growing up. And that is, I reflect on that, but then because what you were talking about, how the nature's coming back, like, yeah, that's the positive. Yeah, come on. We got to share that with more people, like, and give them that hope and that because it is tough times. But like what you said, there is some ways that we could reach out to some of those different people that are hurting and that, and and I would like to see that more of that, like, so people feel that positiveness too. Because the negative, I've been through that. I've that mental anguish and those things. I know what that feels like too. Don't you worry. I know what all that pain it feels like, and I don't want that for anyone, and especially not for kids and that, like, yeah.
So that's interesting, because it's I have a feeling that I could ask you 100 times when you left college what your goals and your aspirations were, but you are either clever or clear on the narrative. But surfing just came up in that last one. So did you come to Thailand in search of surf, or was it known that you were going to find some spots? Or?
Well, by the time I got into my late teens, it was either surfing or music, but that's when the music, and that's when like, I can do this, and I love to do this because I can touch people, like, and that's a beautiful thing when you make them laugh, smile, or cry. There's songs that you can cry, but there's songs make you want to get up and dance. But there's songs where it's just chill, and like every situation has maybe a different mood, and I guess for me, being sensitive enough to have that, like, you can say things in a song that you cannot say in a conversation, because in a conversation people are going, what? But in a song they'll go, interesting. It's not intrusive. It's more like and then they'll just say, it's the madness of the artist. They all believe that artists are a little bit crazy and that, and yes, of course, But I also feel from being around different artists and that, like, growing up, having a good sense of humor. That's wonderful. When you meet those people that have that sense of humor, and like comedy is another art, and it's like, it's so. There's so many ways to share that. Those. Who we are.
Right.
Who we are.
I mean, those are good observations, because I've always thought, there's always been the musician who's the outer liar. So if it's Bach, and was he viewed as, he's the kooky guy, or, he's stretching it, or Mozart, or whoever, and there's probably always been that band of artists, however they worked in the artistic world or the musical world, that was speaking a new language, right? And I think about music now where, contemporary music, the message is so far and so broad and so personal, and I think about my influences growing up, what was risky or what was risque or what was taboo. It went far, but not nearly as far as today. And so it's I sat, and as I listened to you go through that explanation, I was wondering, I wonder if any of Charlie's original influences remained influences to today. And I can answer that by seeing the sets you play, so I can probably sort of answer that. But I thought, I wonder if he goes and search on whatever social media is available now, because none of us can carry albums anymore. Or if they do, it's sort of hard to manage them, and you're sort of isolated playing your albums. It's not the nature of how music seems to work, where we all go to Spotify or something and play it. Do you listen to a lot of the music that you listened to when you were growing up, or is it in your head and you play it? Has that carried forward? So Dylan, I've heard you play repeatedly. And I couldn't tell you if he's your favorite or not. I would guess he probably is someone who's influenced you at various stages. Do you, if you like him, or an example like him, someone that you were influenced by when you were younger, do you have on the iPhone that's in your family? You can't just show me that small one. I know you also have an iPhone. Do you go on and listen to music all the time, or no?
That's my wife's iPhone. That has nothing to do with me.
Part of the family.
Ask her. That's
she said, "Message Charlie here."
Yeah,
so you're guilty by association.
That's why I brought her, because she knows how to do that stuff. Right. I don't get on that, but it's an interesting thing you said, because I think there's so many brilliant artists out there, but for me, it's the guitar, the bass, and the drums. That's that holy grail. Like, I've met thousands of these little, and they get together, and when they have that chemistry, and that's why when you have that guy up front, that lead singer, who really, man, that guy can sing, and it's not rocket science. It's like the guitar, bass, and drums, and they just have that click, and you got that, and that's the magic. So all the greats, because there's been a lot of great artists, nobody's ever heard of them. I saw this on Facebook actually. There was there's these 3 girls, and I think they're making an album now, so they're the up and coming. I don't know who they are, but somebody put it out there, sent it to me, and they have their best friend, this other girl who just popped up, and there was these 4 girls, but their harmonies. And when this girl was singing with her big smile and the song, the lyrics she wrote, it was so beautiful. Like I was like, man, these guys are awesome. Like it was just, but it's just that magical, that perfect chemistry. You know,
Yeah.
you got these different artists who come together, and it just 1 and 1 makes 3. It just accelerates. It gets so, it gets bigger. Like you get 1 and 1 makes 3, then you get 2 and 1 makes 4, and then you get these 4 that, wow, it's like when they sing together on these harmonies and these choruses together, like you can hear like choirs. You can like, wow, what is that? That's magic.
Yeah. So I follow that, and it's interesting. I mean, you're in bars and out enough playing that there's background music, and so I imagine you hear. Do you hear it when you're there? Do you sit and listen to it, or is it just sort of part of the ambiance of the room you're in, and you're in some other celestial sphere thinking about other things when background music's on?
Oh, no, I can hear songs that's why I like to play with Will, because Will does these old-time songs from when I was a kid.
Right.
Like, wow. And Will takes me there, and it's like, I love that. I love that music is like a time machine, and it can takes you to these different, and it's like, wow, what is that?
So the last time you looked up a song on the internet that you like to play, have you ever done that? Have you ever gone to the internet to say, I want to hear Rush's Moving Pictures or something like that? Or have you ever gone out and searched music on the internet?
Well, you talk about the band Rush, right?
Right.
So I got to watch their biography, and they blew me away.
Oh, they're unbelievable.
That was the bass player that was singing,
Geddy Lee, yeah.
but also their guitar player and their drummer. See, they were guys that it's like a marriage. That after all these years, they're still together. Yeah. And for me, that's a real band. When bands when you can find those people that you work with, and
So bad example there. It took you on another side path. So would you ever go to look for a song and to try to play it back somewhere, or go home, and do you have albums?
For sure. I have so many songs that I sing them, and it's like people tell me. I actually had that at Apotheca. This old guy who is a Bob Dylan. He's a disciple of Bob Dylan. He's like, Charlie, you forget some of the words, and I'm like, Rob, you're right, man. Like sometimes I just can't. But the chorus, as long as you can come in on the chorus or make up something, and it's like, and that happens all the time. As I get older, like I get forgetful and things. But I don't. But the thing with me, I don't forget the chords and that now. I'm there with the music. It's kind of like songs are very similar. You got Bob Dylan songs. You got. You know, that other guy, that's the same chord structure, and that they're all like, and it's all there, chord structure, and it's all, but I guess I'm getting more down to simplifying things, like, even like people ask me to teach them guitar, and, you have all these different names for these different scales, and I'm like, wait a minute, let's just say we got some major scales and some minor scales, and the major scale is like, it's like getting on a C harmonica, and you're playing in the major. I can't go wrong. I'm going to find something there. But I did a gig where the son was throwing this party, owned this pizza restaurant on Jomtien. It was beautiful, and he had his father there who was 70-something, Bill. And Bill comes up to me and goes, "What's with all the harmonicas?" And I said, "Bill, it's like this. If I'm playing in G, I'll take that G major, and I can't make any mistakes. It's all going to be good." And he said, "Really?" He said, because when he was a kid, that his sister was a singer, and he used to want to sing with her, and she'd say, "Oh, go away, you're tone deaf. Sound like crap. He's in his 70s. And I said, "Listen, Bill, you can blow on my one and I'll play something in G. He was with us the whole night. He was blowing, and I was just enjoying Bill. But later on that night, his son, who was in his 40s, come to me and said, I don't know what you did for my dad, but I've never seen him so happy. And he went back to Australia and he was going to buy every key. He's going to buy the minors and the majors and all. He's going to get any key. And I love that with music. And I just got that from being with kids. And I've done a lot of gigs where, people... I even had this one girl, she was like, her name was Bozo. Her husband was French. I said, if your name was Bozo in Australia, you'd be having a hard time, but I guess maybe in France it's a cute name. But she was lovely. This girl had the face of an angel. And I said, by the way, do you sing? And she goes, actually, I've written my own songs. And I went, really? Why don't we sing one? And she said, no. And I said, come on, just try it. And sure enough, the key of C, just a C and an F. That's all. I just kind of stayed around then, And she sang this song. And I could see the look on her face. She got so high. She was just so full of grace, and she was just shining. And it was so beautiful. And she said to me, she said, I never knew I could do that. And I went, there you go, you can. And it was beautiful. And it was just one of those things that, getting together and sharing that music and helping people like, yeah, you sing. Come on, you can do it.
So how much of what you've just described sort of... is comfort playing and lack of nerves versus earlier days? So let's just say your first gig in the 70s, you show up and you're like, I forgot words.
Well, right? Okay. See, see, my background there in my early days, that was like the hippie era. I never got it. I was always a little bit too young. And I was too young that actually I missed out having to go to war, which was a good thing, because my grandfather, old Feathers Billy Smith, he used to pray for me. Pray you never have to go to some stupid bloody war. And I remember that as a kid growing up. And I was always a little bit too young to understand the hippies, but I was part of it. They just took me under their wings. So you can imagine the effect those people had on me, being a young artist, arty-farty, surfer kid, blah, blah, blah. But they took me on an adventure. Well, the music at that era, that 60s and that whole thing, that was a bright light that all of a sudden just come on like boom. And I didn't understand it, but I could feel it. And it's been a learning process. And for me, the music's been thrown in there where I heard so many great singers and so many great songs over the years that, that's a never-ending education. You can never you can do that forever. Like,
how would you go about it? I mean, would you try and memorize lyrics, or would you write them down and read them, or was that not part of the process for learning?
Okay, even my son now, in the old days we were in a bands together, and in the old days it was like that, write it down and put it inside your plastic book, and he's still got that book till today, and it's more than 300 songs. So you can imagine that. But for me now, it's like, I don't want a book. I'm not carrying that book. Right. So I'm just going to play and whatever comes in my head, and that's a little bit the way I do it. I kind of go there wherever. If somebody asks for a song, if I can do it, I can't. Sorry, but if I'll do it, I'll do it.
Right.
And that's been a nice thing, because even when I was in the band with the rest of the other Scallywags, we had some old man sitting there, and all of a sudden at the end of our set, he was asleep. He's like sitting there enjoying the music, or maybe he was meditating. But he jumped up, this old Thai man, and he looks at us and he goes, Hotel California. And the rest of the guys kind of, they took off. And I felt sorry for the old gentleman. And I said, listen, uncle, I'll do it for you, but just me, okay? Just 1 minute. And he goes, okay. And I said, but you have to sing along on the chorus. So sure enough, when it got to the chorus, welcome to the hotel. He stood up with open arms. California. He was having a good time. Anyway, so at the end of that, when I finished that song, he came up and gave me a 500 baht tip. And it was so lovely. And then he said, you want a beer? What beer do you drink? And I went, if you're buying me a beer, uncle, I'll drink whatever you get me. But I would have missed that if I didn't. And that's what I feel about playing live music. Sometimes that you're a servant there. You're not there to be on the big stage and welcome to Las Vegas. No. I'm just that conduit that lets that energy come through me. So whatever I can do to give you a better day, like, thank you very much. I'm happy to go there.
So do you know the words to Hotel California?
Most of them, yeah.
Really?
On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, one smell of the colitas.
Right.
Hey, Charlie, what's a colitas?
Right.
I don't know.
You don't need to be you don't have to be able to recite the Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So yeah, I'm learning here. So, well, that makes sense to me. I mean, because I watched you play, and I'm going to get to this in a second. You had you have a looping pedal that allows you to play a sequence of chords or whatever you'd like to play a sequence of, and then hit the pedal, and then it records it and it plays it back. So if you play C, G, C, it will play that infinitely, and you can then play your guitar behind it. So technology is such that guys like you can get up in a room and play and have the sound of several guitars going, and if you have any percussion attached to you, you could click a tambourine on your foot, or have it, and then you can play the guitar and you can sing, and so you can have harmonica. It can be not a noisy affair, but a full, rich sound. And I was watching you play. I don't even know the name of this song, but everyone knows the song. And I said to myself, "What a wonderful world!" I was watching you play that, and I thought, okay. Don't remember the lyrics, couldn't sing along with him if he asked me to, not that he'd asked me to, but I'm pretty sure there was a gap there that he intentionally omitted in the lyrics, but he played and you were looping, and so you had a jam, and then you went into another song, and then you went into another song, and then that set that you played was, I didn't time it, but I remember sitting down because my food took a while to come. It was a 50-minute set without a break, and I imagine that's pretty frequent for you to just play serially, maybe get a sip to wet your vocal cords or something of some liquid, beer or water, or whatever you drink. But it was a pretty lengthy, I don't mean that in a pejorative way, I mean it was a long set. And by any stretch of the imagination, even if you were a classical musician, it was you alone playing an extended break-free set. And I thought, wow, we're really getting a view of sort of Charlie's musical thinking here, because it's this, in a comparison I hate doing this, but at a Dead show when they had the jam session, you could see them do this jam that was not written down, it wasn't preordained, it was going to be 20 minutes, there was going to be a very lengthy drum solo in it, but no one said, here's how we're going to do it tonight. And I've watched you play very lengthy sets with a mix of songs, never the same, and very few breaks. And I don't know if that, in your mind, is a fair description of what I saw, but I think that's what I saw. And it was very interesting to watch. And it was very interesting to watch you having adopted what's now, I think, one of the great, fairly inexpensive tools that musicians are given, which is the loop pedal. It's just amazing how awesome it is in terms of allowing folks to play solo, right? And so I don't know if any of that resonates with you, or if you want to comment, or if you have feedback for me on that, but it was an interesting set, and I paid attention because I thought this is an odd song for him to play. It's a Wonderful World, or whatever the name of that song is. I'm not sure if that's Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you sang it right out, and I thought, wow, he's gonna sing this. I mean, and I thought, I'm gonna see if he's gonna do the lyrics identically in sequence, with maybe no break, because I don't think it has a solo in it. I don't think it has a trumpet solo, right?
No.
Just right, which is weird, right? So, and you put a big lengthy solo in, which I thought was entirely appropriate. So, interesting to see. So that's maybe an observation or a comment I passed to you. You can comment or not. Yes.
Okay, so having the tambourine on my foot just adds that, and also because I do like to get on a set of drums, and I love that feel because everything's moving. Your four limbs are and finding those different little grooves and licks, and that's just repetition, but you feel it. You're following somebody. So I got the tambourine, and then I'll use the harmonica. And then that loop machine, so people go, hey man, you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 things at once. And they go, oh, okay. And that is just to make that sound, that kind of bigger sound, because when you're there by yourself, and you still want to kind of get that band sound. Take just sounds like, and to be honest, in a small venue, the tambourine on the foot, that and the harmonica on a microphone or even without the microphone, those acoustic sounds, they travel, they go out there. And I love that about that kind of music, that you can, people can be sitting and have a conversation and your music's right there, but you're not invading them. You're not like smacking them in the face. Hey, listen to me. Like you're just part of their little party there. But of course you can get to those loud thing where people want to dance and you can, let's get a bit crazy here. But I always feel when you get a bit crazy, you got to remember, you always come back to that ballad. Hit them with a couple of ballads, then give them a little bit of that reggae and some rock, some blues. And then for me, when I do live gigs, I like to throw in a bit of that morlum, just feel that. And then being a foreigner, people go, whoa, that's from the northeast of Thailand. He can speak Isan. And I love that. But then I always end up coming back to a nice ballad. And I love that type of music. Like I met some gypsies, and they really affected me because it was just a Spanish guitar and the violin, and also that one person on a tambourine, and it was like so dynamic, so like. But it was also their voices and that, I guess, that spirit they have of just that. But it's like that. I feel like even the gypsy music with the Arabic music with the Spanish music, it's connected. There's these sounds you hear, and it's like, whoa, that's connected. It's all connected. And then we go to the blues, and even the great jazz players, like they'll tell you, I never played a song the same every night. It's always a little bit different. Like, like wow, and that's. I love that too. It's always that's the moment. It's unrehearsed, but it's that moment, and magic can happen. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But when it happens, hey, it's...
Yeah, so that's interesting you say that, and I don't know enough about musical theory, and I'm sure there are probably masters and doctorates you could get in comparative music, right? And I'm sure there's very smart people who could tell you where music started and who were the big influences when and how it made its way to whatever the high water mark is with classical and how it's going forward now and with how digital's impacted that. I'm sure there's dogma on that I don't want to get really mixed up in, because I think about it. But what you said to me is interesting is you tend to have one instrument on your mic stand from time to time when conditions allow. I would call it a chime. I'm not sure what you call it.
That's beautiful. It's a chime. That's all it is. I used to actually have the big one, but then I'm just down to a small one now.
Right, just for portability, I imagine, and ease. Yeah, but I'm sure if you
the big one we had was for our drummer, and it was like this big. And for me, I've always loved that. Whenever first I heard that as a kid, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I've always it's a simple instrument. So I just got this smaller one that you can put it on your mic stand, on your microphone, and now and then in between a ballad you can get that kind of jing.
Well, yeah, and I always thought, I thought, is this Charlie's call to prayer? I mean, the first time I heard you doing that, I was like, what is this guy, what's going through his head here as he hauls it out? Because it's eclectic, maybe not. Maybe it's, to you, it's straight up front standard. Who doesn't have a wind chime or a chime on their mic stand is sort of not following the rules. So I don't know, when I meet new musicians or meet new folks who are playing, if I'm the one who's the exception and everyone has one of these, or if everyone doesn't and my doing it is unique or strange or eclectic. And it's just interesting the way you deploy that in your act, and I don't mean act, in your performances. I've seen you do it between songs. I've seen you do it at just about every opportunity now, and I thought, okay, I thought that was just sort of a divider call to prayer thing here between songs, but you do it in songs as well. And so it's interesting what you bring along with you to your show. So you do have the harness or the holder for the mic, the harmonicas. I've seen that. You obviously pack that up and carry that with you. It's probably not very space efficient, but you have a spot for it in your backpack or whatever. you have your pedal looper, and then
Yeah.
I don't know if I hear a distortion pedal, but
Just a little bit. I used to always use a compressor and a distortion, but now I just use a distortion, but just a little bit, just to give it that little bit of a boost.
Yeah,
just,
right.
Just a not too much.
yeah, I didn't think it could be on your guitar, which we'll see later. So you're carrying those around, and then you have your tambourine or your sort of metal instrument rhythm thing that you bring with you.
That tambourine, the one I use now, is actually the one that used to be on the drum set. You screw it on; it's got a little thing.
Yeah, the half.
So I'm using that one now because that one doesn't break so easy. For many years, I used to go to Chinatown in Bangkok and buy these 100 baht a tambourine, and I would tie some rope on it at the bottom of my foot so I could have that I could hit it. And that has a funny story because one night this guy from New York, he said, "Hey, can I see your tambourine?" I said, "Sure." And he lifted it up and he went, "Hey, you need to patent this. You need to patent it. Make a patent." And it was brilliant.
Funny.
But this character, like this little guy from New York, and the way he talked, "Hey, you got to patent it. That's great." And I'm trying to tell him, "Hey, man, that's old school. I learned that from my forefathers.
Right.
Like that's been around a long time. Yeah, that's nothing of my genius. That's just old school stuff." But it was brilliant the way he said it. You got to patent it.
Well, and it's so funny to me because knowing what little I do about you, having a patent discussion with you is the most absurd thing I could possibly think of. Like, "Hey, Charlie, let's go down to the law firm and write this thing up so we can submit it to the patent office."
Yeah.
Is that going to be exciting for you, Charlie?
Yeah.
And then we'll spend a year fighting over this, and then we're going to have to go down and talk to a bunch of strangers about how it's your idea.
Yeah.
And at that point, I've lost you 100 different ways, right? That's such a funny conversation. Like, the guy obviously caught drift of your message by, like, saying you should patent. It's like, bro, I'm not about the patent. That's a funny story. Well, that's interesting. So we've talked a little bit about, your history, where you're from, tried to drag some details out. I have a feeling musician since, adolescence, probably musician your whole life in your head, and we're listening, and it was part of your world, and I imagine the crickets and the birds sort of had a message for you that maybe other people didn't, and I have a feeling that stuff touches you in a way that's probably musical. And life-affirming and life-giving as opposed to a nuisance that keeps you awake. For example, me, every morning I hear a rooster on Asok, which is effectively Times Square, right? And I would really like to have it removed from our neighborhood. I imagine you would call back to it and say, "Thank you, brother." So, it's just interesting how things get incorporated into the show. And so to me, I've heard you whistle in ways that are not natural, and then I've heard you whistle in ways that I think could be emulations of tropical birds that are very hard to emulate and very high pitched and very sort of non-melodic, sort of very unlike your guitar leads, right? Which are very melodic, and so you incorporate these various different things into your show as a one-man show, like our good friend Ray Red. I think we all know Ray. Ray has that clacker thing for his foot, which is a wood block that he makes out of. I think you guys are both from Australia, right? Ray Red from Australia? Yeah. You know Ray?
Ray, I always thought he was Filipino. I always say to him, "Kamusta ka, mabuti?" Now I know. He looks at me like, this guy's... So you're not Filipino?
Ray is not Filipino. Frank is Filipino.
Frank's Filipino.
Not Ray Red. You don't know Ray? You guys split them. Byron Bay. Okay,
Which
well,
one's Ray?
he
He's
doesn't
coming.
know. Yeah, that's funny. He comes here all the time.
Byron Bay is...
He's
I
a
love
seasonal
it.
visitor, Ray, but Ray has a clacker on his foot that is
Okay.
patented. It has his name on it or something.
Ray plays the guitar. And
Yeah.
He's the guy that goes to New York.
Yes.
Okay, I know that guy. Yeah.
Have you never played with him?
I don't think so. Maybe we have. I've known him when I played on Colson Road years
I'm
ago.
sure.
I met him.
Ray is everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
He's sort of ubiquitous with playing.
Yeah. Ray's been there a few times now. Frank's Filipino. That's right. Ray.
Yeah. No, I pointed there.
Ray.
There's no way you could have followed what I was thinking there, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the foot thing. Okay, so good. So music and recently we've had interactions. I was watching you play one night at Apoteca when met your wife, and she had a menu that had artwork on it that obviously you had drawn or had put around the food offering, which were pies that she makes and sells. And I've become a fan of those pies in both their fruit and their vegetable form. So a vegetable pie, which is probably more Aussie and English than American. Just truth be told, I think fruit pies are more what we eat in America, I would guess. And I can't speak for the numbers, but that's what I was exposed to. But get them in their small sort of single serving things. And there was artwork all over those. And so you had talked about your drawing. And so you talked about school way back when, the art influence, and it made its way into my office the other day on the outside of the pie box. Did you do those, or did your wife draw on those?
No, that's the flower, the
yeah.
smiling flower. No, that's mine. That's mine.
All right, so I have been the beneficiary and the recipient of original Charlie McSkallywag artwork, uncopywritten, and now dedicated to the free space of the world, which was interesting this week. So it's a nonstop performance, right? It's pen on paper, singing, and that's the week, right?
Yeah, she is the pie lady, and I'm the Pied Piper.
The Pied Piper.
So, and I made a song, "Pies Full of Love," and a song to cheer your heart. And that's my because she works hard. She's the one that goes to the market. She's the one. Well, I go to the market,
I gather.
but she's the one with the passion to cook these pies. And I've never seen her so happy in my whole life. She's found her calling. It's like divine.
Is this a recent thing?
Yeah, just recently, since this COVID, because
really?
I lost all my jobs singing in pubs, all of a sudden, hey, there's no money. What are we going to do? And then she'd come up with this idea. And then I go out with her, even on the streets. We go out at Carlstown area, and I have my little guitar with all the flowers on it, and then people, a pie, these are good, and and then a song to cheer your heart, and I'm like, yeah, the Pie Lady and the Pied Piper. This is gonna go places. But it's nice.
You got to patent that.
Yeah, got to patent it. Yeah. But it's been good, and I do enjoy it. But that's just what I help to for my wife's little business. I go with her and sing songs to people, and people are buying our pies and they like it. They go, good stuff.
Well, it's interesting because it really is an icebreaker for me at the office in a way that sometimes, as an expat, as a foreigner, as a senior member of a staff in an office, communicating with the younger staff, sometimes there are social norms that say, speak when spoken to. And the pie has been the great reuniter in this instance. In particular, when I sent the menu out, because it's not in Thai. Right, it's in English.
Well, it's got Thai.
But then I found out I didn't, because I couldn't recognize it, because it looks a little bit with your paintings on it. It looks a little crazy if you don't search for the Thai letters. But then I thought, wow, I wrote it down as Charlie being a bit of a kook again, when in fact I was not reading the Thai, because I'm not facile at picking out handwritten Thai. It has to be Times New Roman, whatever the normal point is in the Thai textbook for me to read it at this point. I can't see freehand Thai very well. Like the cool logo I can't read when I'm driving down the street when I'm looking for a restaurant if it's not in English. I'll be like, what does that say? I need the really neat cursive Thai. But it was funny, I put that out, and I put the menu out, or the thing you guys have that you put with the pies out, and they were gone much quicker because people came up and read it. And picked a pie out and they're reading it. And I thought, what a strange thing. Like that little bit of artwork on the box and the menu. And I was having more conversations with people because they're right by my office, right? So it was just, I passed that back to you, not as a marketing tool or as even anything that's about money, but as sort of the purpose for which these were made, out of love and happiness from her part, I think, right? And to the world, now they're gone. And the message continued, even through my cynical phase gate, which was, here's the pies, eat them, and it was, hey, what is this? And, you know, people looking at it, starting a discussion with people I normally wouldn't have discussions with because it's impolite for them to speak to a boss first, or, you know, just, it was a very funny observation I had this week. So I pass that back to you as the pie, you know, the spreading love with pies strategy, subversive strategy is working. So it's hitting the corporate empires of time. But I thank you for that. So I thank the both of you for introducing me to the pies. So it's fun to have.
And thank you.
Well, it's
I'm glad. I'm glad that you're workers, and that's a nice thing. That shows me about you too. That you want to communicate with your workers, and you want that. Because when I even played in all these different establishments, I would sometimes tell the big boss, I say, listen, big boss, if you take care of your workers like they're your own kids, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be with you. And Thais are like that. Once you show that little bit of, they put their heart in it. And I love that with the Thai people, because the Thai people they're a force. You know, Thailand's got something magical here. And I believe it comes from their history. Like their fifth king, he was famous for this teaching called Arum Arue.
Arum Arue
is a very that's like, because that was when the French were here and the English at that time, and there was going to be this conflict. And Arum Arue was step back. Is it really no, it's not our business. We're not going to. So they avoid that, and see, that's a very beautiful thing. When we can take a backward step and then realize this negative, it's got nothing to do with me. That's not who I am. And peace. That's what Jimi Hendrix says: when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Yeah. And anything for peace. So that was that fifth king, and that the Thai people really love and honor him. But see, the sixth king was a real character, because he brought out about the arts, about music. If you don't have music in your life, you're strange. There's something wrong. He said that. There's a quote.
Okay.
Chondaiไม่มีดนตรีการในสันดานเป็นคนชอบคนนัก. And it's a very powerful, and it's very beautiful. But one of the most beautiful things for me with the teaching Thai people, like about the ninth king, Lo Gao, Pu Potisat. And when you really study his teaching, Pa Piang, that's actually the heart of the Buddha. So that's like, whoa, that's like the Thai people, Satu. Like it's a very, and maybe a lot of people don't get that about Thailand, that, you know, like, oh, it's a third world country. No. It's not. Agriculture, and if you study some of the great philosophers, they said all these great empires, they got it wrong. The most were the food growers, the agricultural people. They were the ones who were more enlightened. And I'm like, whoa. Because then when you take the arts, you throw that in there. Yeah, the Thais really, they respect the artists. They love the artists. And the art a little bit crazy in that. Good. Like they've got that very, but don't ever make, you know, like respect that. And like with the Thai boxing, if you're looking for, you get in that Thai boxing ring. But the fifth round, they're not hitting each other anymore. Why? Because they know who's the winner and the loser already. We live to fight another day. Because I used to watch it with Uncle, and I say, Uncle, why the fifth round they're not hitting each other? They already know who won and lost. That's the Thai way. You don't go to their place. I'm not there. You know, we're just sportsmen. And I thought that's beautiful, because sometimes don't be too serious. Like you were saying about that word cynical, and that, like, wait a minute, there's some beauty here. We can find it. Like, but I understand what you're saying, because you got to have that too. When it's bullshit, you got to be able to say, hey, that's bullshit.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I think you're right, and I think you brought us back to how this discussion opened up, and I think maybe this would be a good spot for us to transition. But I appreciate your respect and reverence for Thai culture, and I appreciate your saying that here today. So I think that's important for us to do. I think we both realize we're guests in this country, and we have to be respectful, and I think that was a very good summary, and I think it it helps us better understand you because you've spent time, and when I talk to people about you or behind your back about you, they tend to mention that historical component of your ability to educate. You know, there's a lot, not that you just picked up, and I may hate to sort of make these semi-ageist comments, which are stupid, but you know, the quality and depth of the knowledge, and I think that was a good example there of things that I'm sure if we spent more time together would be very illuminating for me to try and connect dots, you know, to connect the dots of what I see every day that is just not, I can't connect it. I can see this building or this statue or this thing, and it's just the evolution of the society is fundamentally different than what I'm used to, you know, and it's just a new place for me. So I try to remain respectful, and I know Americans in particular sometimes or this American is somewhat challenged in being respectful all the time. So that was a very helpful thing for me to hear from you there. I mean, it's interesting to hear it that way. So let me do this. Frank, are we good on batteries? We have a weird podcasting system, so maybe we'll swap some out here. We've figured out how to swap batteries out, but Charlie, would you mind playing the guitar for us a little bit here?
Love to.
Why don't we shut the first part of this down and turn to the guitar, and we'll give you some options. And I know you brought some gear with you and plug in or not, but get some more water for you or get another beverage and load up the weapon and see if you can play. But Charlie McSkallywag, and I guess, do you want to promote any social media, or is that not a goal of yours? It's CHARLIE, and then McSkallywag is one word, MC. It's capital M, small c. Capital S?
Capital S.
All right, Scallywag. SKALLY.
YWAG.
All right, McSkallywag.
McSkallywag.
And that the history of the McSkallywags goes back to the turn of the millennium in the Australian genealogy book, so it is traceable as a certainty.
You'll find it.
But thanks for coming in today, Charlie. Let's move to the next piece.
Thank
okay?
you.
All right, good.
Anton, it was nice talking to you.
Yeah,
I really
good.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me too. All right. Okay, good. Hey, you know, Charlie, in our first segment, I forgot to ask you, do you have a lot of your own original music that you've written? You can yell it out. We can hear you.
I have made a couple of CDs of children's songs.
Okay.
How many years ago was that, dear? With Addie? 10 years ago? So I'm thinking I'm going to get together with Will, actually. Will's been talking to me about it. We're going to re-record, but these were actually 2 albums of children's songs.
Okay.
And other than that, I've always just been the backup guitarist in bands, backing up other people. So I've always just been the guitar player, but my children's songs, I sing those myself.
Okay, and I think I knew that. I didn't mean to suggest one way or the other if having them or not having them is good or bad, but I wanted to ask. Then, are you going to play some covers here today, or are you going to mix it up, or what do you have in mind for us?
I guess I'll just maybe I'll do some of my kids' songs.
Whatever you want. I don't
Okay.
mean to influence it one way or the other, and you just started playing some cool stuff there. But
Okay.
all right, why don't we do this? Take your time, get comfortable, and we're going to turn it over to you. So, ladies and gentlemen from around the world, we got Charlie McSkallywag here in Bangkok, Thailand, playing guitar, harmonica, and tambourine at the foot with stuff in the Roman Anton studio. So, take it away, Charlie.
Well, good morning, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murphy. Good morning, kids. Well, you ever coming outside, we'll look up in the sky, we'll sing a song too. Well, the boys are singing the clouds, and when they heard the school band to the rhythm of this song. So sing along, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murphy, kids. Life. You gotta be in it to live it. Oh, my name is Charlie McSkallywag, and And I'll be coming from Missouri, and I'll be going to, where are you going, man? To the land of not too much, just enough. Aye, where everybody has enough. Well, you hear the wind, but you don't know where it came from. You feel the wind, but you don't know where it's going. Well, it's the birds and the bees, the flowers, the trees, it's you and me. Oh, good morning, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murphy. Come on in, kids. Well, you'll be coming outside, we'll sit up in the sky, we'll be singing a song or two. Well, the boys are singing, the clouds are moving, the earth is grooving. The boys are singing, the clouds are moving, the earth is grooving to the rhythm of the song.
All right, do you have a name for that one?
That's Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy. I thought it was
Mr.
Charlie
Murphy.
McSkallywag, but it's Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy.
All right, good one. Well, that's good. Well, that's an interesting sound there. I hope we're catching all this, but it sounds good in my headset. So go ahead. You want to just jump into something else and do your regular rotation? Or
Okay. Well, you know, scallywags are everywhere. They get in your cupboards, they get in your hair. They sing your scallywag song and hope you sing along. Well, knowledge is limited, but their imagination, well, it's so strong. So here's to the scallywags, your scallywag, and to the scallywag tunes, your scallywag. And if you believe the scallywags do, you scallywag, then this song is something for you. Well, my friend Joey gave me some points, and now the people all ask, are you crazy? Do you really sing with the points? I tell them, yes, I sing with the points, and the points, they sing with me. Such a lovely, lovely, lovely melody. Well, you can make some of the people happy all the time. Woo! And all the people happy some of the time. Woo! But you can't make all the people happy all the time. So why even try? Why even try? You scallywag.
good stuff. Yeah, I haven't heard you play those before, so that's a whole new side there, I guess, right? Yeah. All right, so you have the Epiphone in your hands there, and it looks like you've bedazzled it a little bit. How long have you been playing that guitar here?
This guitar, this one's probably about 12 years.
Yeah.
And my original one that I used to always use on Colston Road was an acoustic with modified with 11 gauge Ernie Ball strings. And then later on, those other brand, I forget their name, but they're very good strings. And my wife broke the neck. So she pulled a chair away and it fell down and broke its neck. And I stuck it together with super glue and used it that night. But I said, "You broke my guitar. Now I got to get a new one." So she said, "Okay." So I got this one. So it's been about 12 years, this one. But I've still got the original one too that I had before.
Got it. And in her defense, I would say she moved a chair.
Yeah. She moved the chair. She did. She moved that chair and my guitar. So I saw it falling over, and then the neck just went.
Your guitar was in the wrong
I went, "Oh, you broke my guitar."
I'm gonna fall on the side of the ties here. Your guitar was in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it's in the wrong spot. I claim the Fifth Amendment, Your Honor. What does that mean? I'm not going to sing anything because I might incriminate myself. Okay.
All right, you got anything else?
Oh, sure. I can.
You can do a cover. I don't want to change your pitches here.
Well, there's a cry in my country. Well, there's a cry. because they have no other way to follow. Turn to the weapons of war, burn and take our land, so for us to stay all alone, all alone. The cry comes, the Lord hath laid on him all the iniquity of our sin. Set us free, set us free, set us free. Cry comes from the hungry, people like you and me, you and me, you and me.
Nice. So tell us about that song. What is that?
Well, that song is actually, I stole that song way back in the 60s when this one older gentleman was just singing about this. I mean, there's more words in that song, but I can't go there because it's mainly a song that I would sing to somebody when we were in that place and we were looking up at the sky, and we could, because it's got so many layers, that music is, that would probably be one of the original gypsy melodies I heard growing up, and feeling that soul and that, you know.
Alright.
You know, like, whoa, and the chords are so simple and beautiful, but it's like, it's classic. But there's a lot of songs with those melodies, and there's a lot of songs there that they all took a little bit from each.
Okay, cool. You got one more for us?
Sure have.
Beautiful.
Well, I'm going to sing a song. This one is dedicated to one of my, over the years I've had many pets, and this song is for Stubby. Stubby, I spent 15 years with Stubby, and Stubby used to sleep with me with the rest of our dogs. We had many, many dogs and cats. It was the period when my children were like entering teenagehood, where they don't want to listen to their father anymore. But thank God we had all these beautiful animals, and at least my pets listen to me. And but no, I love my kids, and that's a lesson for all of us teenagers. Wow. Yeah, anyway, this is about Stubby.
Shout out to Stubby wherever you are.
He's in heaven. Stubby's waiting for me. Right, Stubbs? Oh, 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 oh. Well, with eyes full of stories and a heart full of love, Mr. Stubbs. Oh, oh, oh. Well, hello, I'm man's best friend. Do you know my name? Wherever we go, I know that's where you and I feel just the same. And whatever you throw, I'll bring love back. Well, I wag my tail and I help you smile. All the while, help you smile. Well, no, I'm a fuzzy, wuzzy, furry friend. Do you know my name? And if you've lost your smile, I'll go and find it and bring it back again. Well, when you're sad, I'll make you glad. Well, I'll wag my tail and I'll help you smile. All the while, help you smile all the while. But with eyes full of stories and a heart full of love, Mr. Stubbs. Well, with eyes full of stories and a heart full of love, Mr. Stubbs. See you soon, Stubby boy.
All right. I don't want to end it. It's not a sad note. It was a happy song, but I want to give you a chance to one more if you'd be willing to do that for us. You got one more?
Sure.
Anything goes?
I just wrote this song, and this song is dedicated to the Gypsy King.
You mean you just wrote it sitting here?
No. Just wrote it. No. I think I wrote this song recently because everyone's talking about mental health issues and blah, blah, blah. But I have somebody who's very dear. They don't know me, but I know them, and I know their family. And this song is dedicated to them, and he's the Gypsy King.
All right.
Okay.
So you're calling this the Gypsy King?
Yeah, this is for the Gypsy King, dedicated to the Gypsy King.
All right.
And his lovely, lovely Gypsy Queen, Paris. Tyson Fury, a Gypsy King. And Mama Paris, oh, a Gypsy Queen. And Mama is a name for John, the lips and the hearts of little children. Tyson Fury, oh, Gypsy King. Mama Paris, Gypsy Queen. Oh, Mama is a name for John, the lips and in the hearts of little children. Going, Joe, with that guitar in your hand? Well, I'm going way down south of Mexico. Play the mariachi, gonna dance. Oh, to the flamingo. Hasta la vista, baby. And everyone that's gonna sing a love song.
Nice. So, the Gypsy King. So, Tyson Fury is a real person.
Tyson Fury is a heavyweight champion of the world.
That is correct.
The lineal heavyweight champion. And he's from Manchester, but his heritage comes from Ireland. They're travelers. And I love Tyson Fury for his ethics. And also his wife is such a beautiful lady and a beautiful mum. And now she's going to have number 6. And Tyson is just, he helped a lot of people with this mental issue. And what he did with his life is beautiful. Like, good on you, Tyson. You encouraged me to get up again and just keep going, man. Like, don't give up. Keep going.
That's a great way to end segment 2, Charlie. So thanks for playing that, and hopefully he hears this.
I hope so. All the best to him, him and his family, and to his father, John.
All right. Well, good. You want to say anything to anyone else out there who might be a fan or friend of yours?
To all my loved ones, all the people who love me, or who even don't love me, I don't care. I love you, and all the best to you and your families.
All right. Beautiful. All right, Franco. Let's shut it down here, and we're going to go hit the road for a little bit and go see Bangkok through Charlie's eyes, or at least a small piece of it. So on to phase 3. Thank you. All righty. Okay, Roman Anton Podcast on the Green Mile in Bangkok, Thailand, and today I'm happy to be with Charlie. We did the first 2 parts of our interview back at the Roman Anton Studios, and as you know, the third part of any podcast is on the road. So Charlie, thanks for coming out. I thought if we picked a place in Bangkok, I thought a good one would be outside in nature, because that's sort of my image of you, and I think today in the interview I'm more convinced now than ever that you're a nature guy. So you spend a lot of time out in Bangkok walking around. Are you a walker, or are you yeah?
I'm a walker.
Yeah, you know the parks of Bangkok well?
I know the parks well.
Yeah, you've never been on this though, huh?
No, I've never been on this. This is great.
It's a very weird thing. So it's very long, and it goes from one part of town, which we call Ratchadapasek, to Lumphini Park, and I think they call it the Green Mile. So what do you think of this thing, Charlie?
Yep, it's the Green Mile. It's great. I love it. It's green. Trees and water, and yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
And I think they used to call this the tobacco property over here.
The tobacco factory where they make cigarettes.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
That's gone.
Bye.
So was this when you first moved here? Was this a different setup over here? Was there like an industry going on?
Well, they have that park over there that's been quite a while now. When my son was younger, we used to go and ride bikes around here, and we've wandered around here, but we used to come down to the tobacco factory here before and noticed it was here. But now that they're reclaiming all this land and making it part of the park, I think it's a great idea.
So you've seen this property change over time, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always changing. Things are always changing.
Yeah. So do you ever play outside venues and parks? Have you ever played any outside at all? I mean, you play in Khao San Road. We talked about that.
Yes. I love doing outside gigs, like especially outside gigs. But the favorite I ever done was on the beach. We were on the beach, and as the sun's going down, and then you get that sea breeze.
Where was this?
At Got Chang and Got Samet. I've done 2 gigs there.
Okay.
Got Samet and Got Chang, and it was so beautiful that evening, just playing live music on the beach and the breeze. But here also, I love outside events. I do love that. And that's what they're trying to promote these days too. Have more live outside events where you're outside, and I think that's great.
Let's talk a little more about songwriting. I mean, you played, I think you played mostly originals, and then you said you borrowed from some gypsy heritage song for the Tyson Fury one.
Well, no, the Tyson Fury one is it's a melody that I know. A lot of songs have that melody, but one time I saw his life story, and I got really touched, like Tyson Fury, like, wow, what you went through, and becoming the heavyweight champion, and then it meant nothing to you, and then coming to a place where all your money and everything didn't mean anything, and then one day you realize you're going down the wrong track because you have a wife and you have all these little kids. So you had to make that. You had to determine not to give up, and it's a beautiful story, and I love that you're the gypsy king and your wife is the gypsy queen, and it's beautiful that you gave something to me that meant a lot too. Just don't give up. And I was going through a period during the COVID where I felt because I lost my singing jobs, and I felt like, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to do this? And then I've got kids too, and they've all grown up, but they also sometimes say, Dad, you got this bit of spare change, you can help us. And I like to be there. And I've got grandkids that, of course, their birthdays and Christmas, you got to get the grandkids something. So it was a dark time, but got through it, and here we are.
Yeah. So do you write melody or chords, or do you sit down? Are you always writing with a guitar, or how does this stuff come to you?
Always. I've always got a guitar with me. Wherever I go, I always have a guitar with me. And people go, oh, and it's like, hey, wherever I am, anytime, anywhere, for anyone, I'll sing them a song. That's always been and I love that. I love it. I've got this one little guitar. It was very cheap guitar, but it's been with me for many, many years, and I love just to go places, and then I'll find melodies, and then a thought will come, and I'll put that and that's how I make songs. I just do that. It's a very natural way, very simple. It's not nothing intelligence or that intellectual. No. I'm part of this nature. I'm there, and I love that feeling where when you sing a song for somebody and they go thank you, and it's like, and you know you just poured out it came from there, and I love that medicine.
How about the lyric part? The dog song, Stubby.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously the dog howling is unique to Charlie, but when you sit down and write lyrics, are the first ones that come usually the ones you keep, or do you modify them over time, or do you forget them and change them, or all the above?
All the above. They're like a work that's never finished. You're always finding something, okay? And it's like, okay, for example, the Scallywag song about the birds, because I had this New Zealand friend who lived in the 30th floor, and he had this bird cage with these little parakeets in his bathroom. And I said, Joe, you can't put the parrots in, that's terrible. And he said, okay, you can have them. So he gave them to me, and I took them home and put them in the garden. So I'm out there one morning with the harmonica and just playing this song, and the birds are singing along with me. I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden somebody called me and asked my wife, Ratana, where's Charlie? She looks outside, he's outside singing with the birds. So when they met me again, they went, do you really sing with the birds? I went, yeah, I sing with the birds, and the birds, they sing with me. Such a lovely melody, and it was really coming from a real place where they thought, but that really happened. That did, and the birds are like, and the thing was, it was in the key of C. I love the key of C. Why? Because there's so many, I know it's so simple, but the birds were there, and they were like, and all of a sudden you got other birds coming along, and it's all like, whoa, and it's there.
Yeah,
it's there. Nature has that, and I love that about music, like, and especially for many years teaching kids to sing. Yeah, I have the classroom, but when they would bring the whole school together, and this school was maybe 200 and something kids and I'd have the whole school singing like songs. There are two little things. There are a lot of things we can do to be nice, but sometimes they're hard to remember. But there are two little things that we should never forget. From January through to December. I'm talking about please and thank you. They're called the magic words. And if you want nice things to happen, they're the words that should be heard. Please and thank you. They're called the magic words. So use them in the morning, at noon, and at night. It's a great way to be polite. Please and thank you. They're called the magic words. And I mean, you got all the kids singing along, and it was like, it's just magical. And it's like, there's so many beautiful children's songs that have these beautiful things for kids which are non-political, non-religious. It's just who we are as humanity.
Yeah, well, I hear you. I mean, it's interesting. Now you got me thinking, do birds sing in a key? I wonder if there's some nature key.
No, they're above us. They can go to that. Like, that's why Whitney Houston was such a gift to this world, because I will always love you. She doesn't go up one octave, she goes up 2 octaves, where if I try to sing that, there's nothing there, I'm lost there, but she just, boom.
That's how Frank does it.
And there are these people who can, and I've always been the backup guitarist, but I can sing because I've been singing with kids, but I know it's a muscle, and I'm kind of like that. I like to do that kind of rock feel, where you get that real, and it's like, I ain't a lion, but I love that. It's like feeling that, like I love that feel in music too.
So it's nature's rocker. We're outside on the Green Mile, and we're still making as much music as we did in the office, but it's a nature-based music for Charlie McSkallywag from Sydney, Australia, right? And a Thai convert. So any places in Thailand? I mean, you've talked about Isan, you've talked about the islands you've been to or played at. Do you have any preference spots, or even in Bangkok, places that you like to go that you'd want to bring to someone's attention here if they were dialing in from overseas or coming here on a vacation after COVID lets folks back in?
Well, I think anybody who comes from overseas, and that for sure they're going to want to go to the natural, and then Thailand has so many beautiful places. Like if you go to Chiang Mai, that's more you're in the mountains, and you can but if you want to go to the islands and you get that island, like that Caribbean feeling, and you got everything here. Or you can get lost in Bangkok taking walks like on the Green Mile. You come, and then but the most beautiful thing in Thailand are the people. The people are,
There it is.
I mean, the heart and soul of this country are just the simple people.
Just when I think I get him pegged down, what's your favorite place? He said it's the people. So,
Yeah.
you know, you think you can define a guy by the question, but you can't with Charlie. And that's what I've learned today, because I think you've answered every question. And I guess as an interview process or a discussion process, I'm always looking for X or Y when I put the question out. When I don't get it, I sometimes struggle, but you've really challenged me today to accept the answers that you give as a response to the question, and I have to work over in my head what the response is. It's been very cool to do that today, Charlie. I mean, I have to admit that I've struggled a little bit to try to rephrase questions, and I thought, why are you doing that? That's the answer, right? The answer you gave me, the answer you gave me. So if I say, what's your favorite color, and you say peanut butter, that's your favorite color.
Yeah.
I got to trust you can hear me, right?
Hey, I get you. That's good. Thank you. That's good. Because that's true. For me, that's whoa, like, and always be like, whoa. And that's one thing they say in Thai. They go, you have problems and that, like, oh, you kind of worried about. They go, hey, there's one thing you can be certain of, and you go, and then they go, nothing. There's nothing you can be certain of, and you go, but it's beautiful. It's
How do you say that in Thai?
Singti nanon, kerwa, singti mai nanon. Oh.
There's nothing you can be certain of?
Yeah, like
Is that the motto of today's? Is that the podcast motto for today?
Well, one thing you can be certain of.
Nothing.
Nothing. Oh, what are you doing to me? Hey.
So I hate to sound stupid, and I apologize if this is, but I guess I'm stupid. Is that a Buddhist philosophy or a Thai philosophy?
Okay. Well, I'll give you because it's bigger than that. Because I saw this movie
Here
called.
we go. Sorry.
I saw this movie called Moonstruck, and it had Cher.
With Cher. So it's a Cher philosophy.
No, but the thing
it's a Nicolas Cage
thing
philosophy.
was in the movie she's supposed to marry this guy, but she didn't. She ended up marrying his brother because they were the ones. He was the one that really loved her. This
They
guy
were moonstruck.
This guy was only marrying her because it's Italian family. We got it. But Nicolas Cage, he really loved her, and in the end, they got together, and everybody was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then the old grandfather, he's crying, and they ask him, "What's the matter, Grandpa? This thing touched your heart so much," and he just said, "No, I'm confused. What's going on?" Because she was supposed to marry him, and they got grandfather. There you go. Even in Italian, you got that. One thing you can be certain of. Nothing is for certain. We don't know.
Okay. So the Thai philosophy wrapped up through Cher on the Green Mile.
But it's all connected. See, we're talking about humanity, and that's a beautiful thing because in Thailand, there are some very beautiful philosophies and things you hear that when you translate it in English, you go, whoa, that is beautiful. Yeah, that can help me. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think I missed an opportunity today here, Frank, and as we sort of talk about who we want to talk to, I think we could have spent time talking about Thai food today because I'm sure you've been through it all. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you know how to make it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've made it. And I'm sure you have your hot, cold, medium preferences down.
I can't make it, but I'm married to this lovely lady and she knows how to make it.
I think you're not telling us the complete truth here, but I imagine you're very experienced with what you eat in Thai food, right? Especially as you go from Isan down to here and elsewhere.
For sure.
Are you a big Thai food eater?
Oh, for sure. But whenever I go to the restaurant, they ask me, hot and spicy or not spicy? Pet mai pet. And I tell them, Uncle, mai pet, mai kin. If it's not hot and spicy, I'm not going to eat it. And they go, hey, you are a Thai. You are the farang with a Thai. And then I'm like, thank you, Uncle.
We got a musical convert in Rath over here. he likes your standard one-liners here. He'd rather drive you around, I think. So, well, good. So,
Ahan Sin Kid, Chai, Ahan Sin Kid. What is Ahan Sin Kid? You don't even have to think about it. What do you want to eat when you're hungry? Ahan Sin Kid. What's that? Pat pai kapao kai khai dao. Ahan. Don't even have to think about it. Aloi nanon. With prick nam pla. Ooh.
So what do you eat? You don't even have to think about it.
No, Ahan Sin Kid. You don't even have to think about it. If you're hungry, somebody's going to the market to get something to eat. Pat pai kapao khai dao. Ahan Sin Kid. They don't think about it in Thailand because agricultural. There's so much good food, but they call it Ahan Tam Sang. So that is one of their meals. Pat pai kapao kai khai dao. Oh, aloi. Prick nam pla na. Wo ron noi. Oh, aloi.
So what is it?
Pat pai kapao. Pat pai kapao is a leaf. It's like a herb, and they cook it with chili and with garlic, garlic, chili.
And so that's always
buttermilk,
available.
Always available. You can go to some little rinky-dink place and you'll taste that and you go, this lady is a good cook, and she's just got that, she knows how to cook, and put the fried egg on top, and it's nice and hot, and you got the chili sauce there.
They're available, that's why they call.
They're
Yeah.
available. So it's what's available is what's good. Well, there you go.
That's why they call Han.
Hansen Kid.
All
ผัด
right.
ซีอิ๊วผัดไทยเหมือนกันหมด
You have to think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it. Don't have to think too much in Thailand about food. Plenty of food. Everywhere you go to, I always tell people, 20, 30 years ago, I was in Isan. At that time, beer ช่าง4 ขวด100 ไม่เคยซื้อแต่ว่ากินทุกวัน Why? Because everywhere I go, hey, the Baksida, the นักดนตรีกินเบียร์สักหน่อย And I never bought a bottle, but I used to drink it every day. Come on, Charlie.
So I think what you're saying is the beer, you got free beer because you're a playing musician and you had friends, but it was
Always.
cheap then. How much was it, did you
It was
say?
4 bottles for 100 baht when it first came out. It was a big, and it was like unbelievable. But that was, I saw that, and the one thing when you lived up country, everyone was always calling you to eat, and like, and then the grandmother, she's calling me her son. Look, look in Kolyang, and I'm looking. You talking to me, Grandma? You call me your son? Oh, Grandma, let me give you a hug. And I felt that with those people, and yeah, if we had too many beer shanks, and I could just stay there, no problem. Just put Charlie, and they would do that, take care of me. Like, I mean, I love that about Palmer Pinong. That is a true thing. Fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters, and the children, and that's very important. That it's nice to feel welcome and feel part of the feel part of that. That's a nice feeling, like when a grandmother calls you her son.
Yeah.
Hey, my boy, how you doing? Have you eaten yet? Like, oh, Grandma, you're so sweet. Anyway.
Well, there it is. So I think we'll have to get some subtitles in that. But look, Charlie, it was a pleasure hanging out with you today. I think we'll do the shake here. Charlie McSkallywag, Roman Anton Podcast, everyone. Green Mile, if you get a chance to come on out, you can even try and learn how to do your modern stuff out here. No one cares. So we'll take some more pictures on the way back. We're going to go out that way. That way, you come down that long stretch. That's Queen Sirjit Park. I think they call it Benjakitti back there. And we're going to go walk back towards Lumphini. So thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Charlie.
Rock on.
All right.
1, 2, 3, quiet.